Now, the vice presidential debate between Senator JD Vance and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is going to happen in New York at 11 a.m. next Wednesday. That's Australian time on CBS. Who do you expect is going to come out on top here? I can't see it being anyone but JD Vance. Surely he's going to wipe the floor with Walz, isn't he?
Not necessarily. You know, the vast majority of times these debates end up without a clear winner because each candidate is carefully coached or is able to at least get out their talking points, and there's no major disaster a la what happened with President Biden's stumbles in the June debate. I think that in both J.D. Vance and Tim Walz, you have two articulate candidates, frankly, more articulate than the top of the ticket. Donald Trump is known for rambling, and Kamala Harris is known for either word salads or literally being so careful that she never wants to say anything other than pleasantries and that I support the middle class. So if there is a clear winner, it could tip the race slightly because normally vice presidential candidates don't matter in the final decision of voters. But this debate is the last time that the two national tickets will present to such a large audience. It looks as if there's not going to be another presidential debate between now and election.
Yeah, I just get the feeling that Vance is a more presentable or certainly a more clever candidate than Walz, though. I suppose it's a matter of whether or not that really comes through in a debate circumstance.
Well, I'll agree with you that he's a more effective debater. This is a man who went to Yale Law School. This is a man who has been an effective senator. But if you want to look at the likability argument, Walz, for all of the fact that he's a liberal radical as Minnesota governor, he comes across as avuncular, as everybody's sort of, baseball, football coach uncle. And he may win the likability contest where Vance wins the articulation contest.
Indeed, it'll be interesting to see. Now, in an interview with The New Yorker this week, while we're talking about J.D. Vance, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky responded to Vance's previous calls to end US support for Ukraine and for Kiev to cede territory to Russia in a peace deal. He said that J.D. Vance was too radical. He suggested that he go and study World War II. Here's J.D. Vance's response to all of that.
Zelensky criticized something I said. First of all, that's not a plan. That's me talking about one possible scenario for how this thing might ultimately end. But look, I don't appreciate Zelensky coming to this country and telling the American taxpayers what they ought to do. He ought to say thank you to the American taxpayers.
What do you make of the Trump and Vance campaign's rhetoric about Ukraine and Russia at the moment?
Well, I think it is a fair statement that foreign leaders should not come to the United States, especially a battleground state like Pennsylvania, which may decide the election, and express a clear preference for one party over another. That is unusual, and I think that most Americans would resent such interference. After all, if we're going to go crazy about a few Russian trolls putting, fake ads on the internet, I think we should be upset when foreign leaders actually come and try to steer election results in a state like Pennsylvania, which frankly has a lot of Polish and Ukrainian voters of Ukrainian or Polish background in it.
Yeah, and he was being flown around in an Air Force plane too, and I tried to find any other foreign dignitary who was given that sort of treatment, a non-civilian plane, mind you, and I simply couldn't find one. Now, before we go, I spoke about this earlier in the show, but the Secret Service is under extreme scrutiny, of course, over the myriad errors that led to the attempted assassination of Donald Trump in July. A new poll commissioned by the US Senate, new report I should say, commissioned by the US Senate, revealed that an agent with only informal training with drone equipment called a tech support hotline, as I was talking about earlier, which ended up delaying this thing going in the air so they could surveil the area. The litany of mistakes that were made that is being lined out here, told every single day there is another one. It just couldn't get any worse.
I think it will take months to sort out the management and other problems that have afflicted the Secret Service. I do know this. If Donald Trump is elected president, I suspect there's going to be a complete cleaning of the house there. If Kamala Harris is elected president, for her own good, she should clean house, because she will be president. Any president is a potential target of people who wish to do them harm. So I think this is an agency that has a daily duty to preserve the elected officials and the structure of our government. They have clearly not been up to the task, and this is a code red crisis if I've ever seen one.
Indeed. John Fund, thank you for your time.